for the invite to talk to you today about the Veterans Service Commission. I also want to make sure we thank those partners that have helped us all year long. It's the same group, so it's a repeat, but the Prosecutor's Office, Purchasing, Human Resources, of course, Zach, your team, PFM, and then the County Administrator, both Mr. Wilson and Ms. Long. With me today, I have the President of our board, Jeff Noble. Jeff was an Army helicopter pilot in Vietnam, finished his full-time civilian career with Huntington Bank. To my left, Angela Klein. Angela's been with the agency over 18 years. She's our continuity. I rely on her daily. Lee Smith is a currently serving Command Sergeant Major with the Ohio Army National Guard. And Merle Pratt is a Navy Vietnam Air veteran, also retired from the Ohio Attorney General's Department. So these are our commissioners and folks that we rely on. Welcome. So this next slide, there's just really two main ideas here. The first is the vision, the American dream. You know, for some, the American dream, what we do simply extends that quality of life that they have, and that's great. We enjoy that. But more often than not, and probably the vast majority of time, our work tries to realize some level of quality of life for the veterans that we serve. Sometimes that's simply just a stable roof above your head and decent nutrition and a warm bed. But that American dream is what we try to bring to life for the veterans. The second idea is in purple, and it's the idea of sustained solutions. It's not a new idea. But for us, we've always focused on what the law tells us to do, and our job is immediate emergency financial need, and then veterans benefits, which I'll talk about separately. But if we don't go after sustained solutions, then we see the same folks over and over, and we're not helping them toward a sustained solution. So you're going to find that theme throughout the presentation today. Quickly, our history, it goes back 150 years. You know, the idea was Ohioans taking care of Ohioans, and at the county level, it was the county taking care of those veterans that are within their county. And so we're the embodiment of that today. And then the quote, obviously from President Lincoln, made at his second inaugural address, I think about 40-some days before he was assassinated, simply stands on its own. I use the next slide as a frame of reference. Our county has obviously a very large veteran population. It makes up almost 9% of the veteran population in Ohio. Ohio's veteran population is around 800,000. So if I use the Ohio statistics and we kind of extrapolate that to county specific, 74% of Ohio veterans are now considered wartime veterans. We have to remember that since the Gulf War started in 1991, the war has never ended, and so all those serving are considered wartime veterans. So of that 74%, or that almost 600,000, 30% are Gulf War, post 9/11. 34% of our wartime veterans are Vietnam era. Our Korean population's down to 8%. Our World War II population is at 4%, and just over 25% of our veterans are peacetime. So it's kind of amazing that only a fourth of our veterans did not serve during a wartime era. I want to go into accomplishments, and I'll kind of draw you into the slide. Bottom right-hand corner, the legend. The green arrows simply just mean we've accomplished that number, or we're at that number. The purple means it's projected. At some cases our data is 10 months, in some cases our data is 10 and a half months, but we don't have the full 12 months. And then you'll notice there's only, the down arrow is yellow. There is no red down arrow. That's because in many cases, you know, down is not necessarily bad, and down sometimes is reflective of success. The one yellow arrow we have that's a down arrow reflects on veteran burials or the indigent population, and that population, that burial support is down this year. I'm going to talk about half of the bullets up here. I'll kind of work through them from top to bottom kind of quickly. You'll see that we saw about 4,500 veterans over 21,000 times. That's a veteran actually visiting at our two locations. We processed over 3,000 financial applications, and we approved 95% of them. We're proud that we have such a high approval rating, that we approve in part or whole, but we also recognize that was kind of the conversation about why we need to turn towards sustained solutions. Because that approval rate, while it is helping the immediate issue, does not always correlate to them getting out of the situation that they're in. The third bullet, provide rent and mortgage support on over 900 occasions. So I'm going to talk about our role and maybe the partnership we have with the VA. We see our role as prevention. The VA's money is focused more on someone who's currently homeless, and they have programs and shelters. But what they don't have is the funding really put toward as much preventative. So we work with them, let them do what they do, we'll do what we do, and we think that's going to be a winning partnership. I'll skip down a couple. Emergency nutritional support to over 1,600 veterans this year. Skip a couple of more. We provided over 7,500 round trip transportation for veterans or their spouses to VA sponsored medical appointments. Very often it's dialysis, it's cancer treatments, those kinds of things. Skip a couple. Our dental applicants are up. We've in our discovery that dental is so important to overall health, and it's become more and more apparent as we were working with veterans trying to help them. So we have a dental program to fill the gap when they're not eligible to VA or other places, and that is now trending back up. And then the last one I have highlighted to talk about is we had almost 300 veterans meet with our financial coach. I say ours, it's not really ours, and I'll touch on that in a subsequent slide. But we get veterans who come in and they have financial challenges, and some of the challenges they don't manage the money in a way that's helpful to them. And so this is one of the things that we try to work with them on. The next slide, the first bullet is the 3-year strategic plan. I'm going to skip that. I have a separate slide I'll talk about. The second bullet is our budget execution. We think we run really lean. 80% of our budget goes to programs, services, or support, actual support or services. Only 20% goes to overhead. I'm reminded often by my bosses that I'm part of that overhead, so I got to make that count. But most of our money goes toward the actual programs or working with the veterans. A couple more down, you'll see the word partnership in purple. I did that. I won't go through all these individually, but this is our future. Developing sustainable, durable partnerships is our future. You'll see the VA a number of times. I talked about our financial coach about halfway down. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau program will stop sometime in April next year. And so we're going to have, we're working on a solution to ensure that we still have that financial protection. Justice-involved veterans, Michael is doing a phenomenal job and invited us into the program. And I can't talk enough about Veterans Court. Judge Barrows is fantastic. The Sheriff's Department has been wonderful to work with. We are very excited about the Veterans Dorm, which in my mind is a precursor to the Veterans Pod in a couple years from now when the new jail opens. And so we are fully invested in this. I'll skip down. You can read some of those, but at the very bottom, I've talked a lot about financial. Let me talk a moment about VA benefit claims. So we have 2 core competencies in our agency: providing immediate or emergency financial need and aid, which is what I've talked about, and also being a conduit and support and veterans seeking benefits, generally VA, but not just the VA. When you look at 1,000 claims in 1 year and an additional 857 intent to file, which protects the claim date. Some claims take 5 and 6 years to adjudicate. When we protect that claim date and it's satisfied 5 years later, they get all that back. So that protecting a claim date is very important. And I'm gonna build on that for the next slide. Our economic inclusion initiative. I think the first part of the slide is self-evident. The money that we get from you and the taxpayers when we go to provide relief and support goes back into the county. We work with county organizations, county businesses, county vendors to provide all the various things that we do, and it's listed there for you. But at the bottom third of the page, I want to get back to that number of 1,044 claims that we initiated this year, and the additional 857 that we did an intent to file. So I did the math there in that slide for you. The average claim is about a 50% finding, and that average claim, 50%, is about $880 a month. So if a veteran is eventually approved for that claim, That's $10,560 a year that they get. And we've been doing this for 100 years. I only take credit for the last year or so. But if you look at the math, there's currently 11,200 veterans in Franklin County that are getting service-connected pension. If you take that 11,200 veterans out of the 68,000 and you multiply it by the average of $880 a month, that's $118 million annually that comes into Franklin County based on claims. Now, we don't do this alone. There's obviously non-governmental organizations, veteran organizations that do a fine job at helping file claims, but it is one of our core competencies that we spend an awful lot of effort into. The other figure is just the federal money that's spent in Franklin County. A lot of this is because of the Chalmers and the CBOCs and those kinds of things. But I do think it's interesting to note that from 2008 to 2017, the VA has spent over 200,000 or 200 million more in 9 years. So the growth has been $200 million in 9 years with federal VA dollars coming into Franklin County. With that, I want to just break for a second and ask Angela if she would talk a little bit about a couple of our programs.
Good morning, or good afternoon. We're in partnership with our sister agency, Office on Aging. We have a home modification program, and that program was able to assist 67 veterans or spouses or widows, and it assists with things such as what you see on the screen. There is your ramp for access and shower roll-ins. In addition to that, we have some safety things that they have been able to assist with in the last year, such as freighter, peeling carpet, tile, linoleum. And so they remove those types of safety issues and ensure that they're able to live in a safe environment. And then there's another ramp. It's providing that access. Then the next one we're going to talk about is the Reese Across America program. And the Reese Across America program has been very dear to my heart. It's one of those things that I think that they have an excellent mission. It's remember, honor, and teach. Remember our fallen U.S. Veterans, honor those who serve, and teach your children the value of freedom. And so this year they have a theme, and it's called Be Their Witness. And we began participating in this program in 2008. We have provided approximately 1,100 wreaths to 3 Franklin County cemeteries. Those 3 are Forest Lawn, Green Lawn, and Sunset cemeteries. We are proud that we are able to build community partnerships with Gold Star Mothers and other various veteran service organizations, as well as our local scout troops that come in and help support the program and lay the wreaths. In addition to that, it's held on the 3rd Saturday of December each year. This year it will be held on December 15th, and again we will be providing wreaths for this wonderful event, as well as there will be 1,400 cemeteries across all 50 states participating at noontime, to include the wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery. So those are some of the programs that we participate in.
Thanks, Angela. Thought a couple of pictures before I go into the next slide, which really talks about kind of our strategic plan. You know, many strategic plans come out and they're very complex, and there's a very large task list to accomplish. What we've done is we've boiled down our future to 3 strategic focus areas. And I'm going to talk about those 3 strategic focus areas: staff retention, outreach, and sustained solutions or quality of life. For staff retention, the level of expertise and experience needed for what we do is very critical. It takes a veterans benefit specialist maybe a year to get to master, if you will, the financial aid process. Just the investigation, the discussion, the empathy, just everything it takes to put together an hour to an hour and 45-minute sit down with a veteran in trouble. It takes them 2 to 4 years to get really competent at the veterans benefit side. As I said, those appeals can go into the years and years. They're very complex. They go to all the different wars and different war areas. There's different things, Agent Orange, what you've heard, but there's many, many other things to learn. So having experienced staff is real important. So what have we done? The first thing is we've changed our hiring process. We role play in hiring process now. Multiple interviews, interactive. most of the people we hire, after we hire them, they say, you really tried to talk us out of the job. And that's, and we look at them, we said, well, better that than have you start and say, what did I get myself into? Again, we saw 4,500 veterans, 21,000 times in a 10-month period, and most of them are there because they're having problems and they need something.
Sure.
And so for the staff that deal with that face-to-face every day in their little small offices, we've got to make sure they know what they're signing up for. And then we went the next step. So we implemented a year-long flexible onboarding program. It starts really before they start. They get a handwritten letter from me. They get a letter from the commissioner before they arrive. They arrive to a desk that's ready for them. They have some Franklin County shirts and stuff waiting on them. We work to have their email account. We're ready for them. We're sending a message on that first day. There's a card every staff member signs. And then the meat. The meat is we have a specific training program for them that's flexible. I call it the accordion. Some people will reach a certain level of mastery in 2 to 3 months. Others may take 5 to 6 months. As long as they can reach the mastery, we don't care how long it takes. Now, if it's not there, it's not there. But we provide this opportunity so that we can draw from the veterans that are most ready to serve in this case. And by the way, if you work in our agency, you're a veteran or you're a family member of a veteran. We have an in-house trainer that puts together training through that first year to ensure that we make all of those and hit all those important training gates. We also are paying more attention to morale. We have this little gold star that goes around the office with a little letter. Sometimes it's something very small. Thanks for staying 10 minutes late for a veteran who needed extra help. It may be you just got somebody that $10,000 a year because you filed for them and they were accepted, but it's that recognition. And then we're working to have some real support. We've moved decisions lower, so when the veteran's sitting in front of one of our team members, the decision can be made there more often than not. Why appeal it all the way up to me or up to the commission if we're going to say yes anyways? And so we've changed some of those things. We've added more team leader support so that they have someone to go to when they have those challenging cases, which is really every day. All this to improve staff retention, and it has really shown through the last 18 months. If I move from right to left, the next gear is the outreach gear. It's really about reaching our veterans and building partners. My story is simple on reaching our veterans. I had 2 Korean War widows in the last 6 months, and they came in for a particular thing called disability compensation or aid in attendance. And they were both eligible for it. There's an eligibility criteria. What's most specific, or what's most important to me though, is not only were they eligible for it, $1,800 a month, to help them either stay in their home or assisted living, but their husbands, the veterans, were eligible and never knew it. And that's really out there. There are so many individuals that aren't aware of those types of benefits. And what quality of life would that have offered that family had they known about it? So as a commission, we discussed it. We're going to cast the net far and wide. There's a little bit of risk there. What if they all come? And I'll be coming back here to talk about staffing options. But if I come here, I'll bring data and I'll show you what we're doing. But so our outreach is going to reach far for any of those veterans. And it's also going to build partnerships. We can't get in the business of finding jobs for veterans. Ohio Means Jobs can do that, and the VA's got a partner to do it, but we can't do it without diluting what we do. And so the rest of our outreach is going to focus on building those durable partnerships. And the last part of it, sustained solutions. Again, quality of life, I think I've touched on that in pretty good detail. The objective is come to us when you need us, but let's get you to a point where you don't need us or you need us very seldom. So this next slide, I just want to kind of tell you how it works. So we'll start at the top, the red balloon, Veteran Service Commission, and we'll work our way around it. So the top red box on the right-hand side says, the veteran comes in, he or she requests help for rent, gas, and food. But because we've been improving our staff retention and our training, they understand how to get more out of that conversation. So from that conversation, we realize, wait a minute, there's an employment challenge or an employment barrier. That's why they're job hopping. They're a heavy smoker. They've got a bad need that they say they heard in the service, and they're in a payday loan cycle. What are we going to do? Well, the Veteran Service Commission, we're going to provide financial aid. Based on our eligibility, we'll support maybe the rent and the gas and the food. We're going to connect them with our financial coach so she can work on the payday loan issue. we're gonna get them a service officer who can work on a service-connected disability for that knee, if we can find the evidence to provide the VA with working with that veteran. Then we're gonna hand it over to the VA. The VA is gonna decide, are they eligible for VA health care? The VA social worker team, the outreach team is just fantastic. I meet at least monthly with their director of social work outreach, but they come to our office all the time. They will see any veteran, even if they're not technically eligible. The outreach will see any veteran once, which sometimes is what we need to try to decide which route do we want to pursue to help this veteran. And then finally, they have an employment team at the VA that's very effective, especially if someone's got an employment barrier. And so we'll refer to the VA, we'll then refer to Ohio Means Jobs and another organization called the Military Veterans Resource Center. So there are other options for the veteran to work through to find work. Then I'm going to pass it over to the Franklin County Public Health team, and Joe and his team will work in this case on the smoking cessation program. Joe's team showed up at our holiday meal card program a couple of weeks ago. 50 veterans signed up for the smoking cessation program. Not only is it a health thing, but a monetary thing for most of our veterans. And then finally, that payday loan, the financial coach is going to work with the veteran and hook that veteran up with St. Vincent de Paul's Columbus chapter, who has this microloan program. We just started experimenting with them about 3 months ago. But what they'll do is they'll pay off a payday loan by giving the veteran a loan through an avenue that will also help work on the veteran's credit report. So it's a very low interest loan. They pay it back to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Once they pay it off, if they have another loan, because they had multiple loans many times, they'll do it for the second loan. And so this is the kind of partnership where we're going. Now, I added a couple of yellow blocks. It was just to make the point, we always did these things that are in yellow, and we did many of the other things. The problem is, it's so hard to have systems in place. They were based on Angela knowing somebody because she's been doing it 18 years. They were based on John knowing somebody. It can't be based on people that we know. It's got to be based on relationships. It's got to be based on activity. And if it has to be done at my level or Angela's level, then we've already lost time and money. It's got to happen with the Veterans Benefit Specialist and the veteran sitting in that little office in their meetings face to face. So I've talked about this, the durable network of support providers. I think, again, the slide speaks for itself, local, state government, and non-governmental organizations. So I want to close with the last slide, really what's in store for 2019. Michael talked about it, but, so I guess I'll force one more drink of the horse's mouth in the water one more time, but we are really excited. We're going to provide a weekly financial course, a 3-week course at the county jail, and we're going to provide a benefits presentation on a weekly basis, probably starting in January, as soon as everyone can work out the logistics. And we're going to do this every week. There's 2,000 veterans that go through the county jail every year-ish. 50 to 70 every day are in the county jail, and so we need to be part of helping them restart when they're getting released. There's sometimes veterans are released and there's no one to pick them up. And so we're going to get involved and provide that resource. We can also work on benefit claims while we're there. And then daily participation in eviction court. Mike Hochran was kind enough to take Commissioner Noble and I to eviction court. What a lesson it was. You know the lesson. What was most interesting to me was the magistrate made it clear it's not a foregone conclusion that they're getting evicted. If there are processes in place to help prevent eviction, gets back to us owning the prevention side of it. So if you walk into eviction court, first you walk around the corner in legal aid, there's 7 of them, and then you walk a little bit further and there's 4 or 5 of community mediations, and you walk down the end of the hallway and there's Jobs and Family Services. We need to be in there. Mm-hmm. We need to be in there so that we can sit with that mediator and the veteran and we can say, okay, if we can provide for the last month's rent, can you give him 30 days to get caught up? And those kind of deals are made all the time, but we need to be there for it. And so that's those 2 things independently, the jail and eviction court, are things that we're going to have to look at staffing solutions for. We want to expand our services into homeless or to veteran homelessness with the VA and the Community Shelter Board. So we're going to continue to work with them. We really want to work in recovery housing. So a veteran goes into a clinic, they're there for 28 days, they come out, but the only place to go back was that environment. that maybe was part of the cause or something, didn't help them get out of that. So we're gonna work on recovery housing with the VA so that if we provide some level of recovery housing funding, then the VA can surge their supported services. That's the partnership. If we do this, they do that, they provide the social worker, the supported services, and give a running start to that veteran to really kick that habit, whatever that habit is. And the details and statistics say that recovery housing is very, very positive. Jobs and Family Services is gonna partner an outreach specialist in our office. We're not sure if it's gonna be a full day, if it's gonna be a half a day, if it's gonna be 3 days. But trying to turn our veterans toward those resources that make the most sense. Jobs and Family Services has come to us with their arms wide open to try to help us. And then finally, the Grove City Community-Based Outreach Clinic, the CBOC, should open in the April timeframe, and we will place a Veterans Benefit Specialist there as a third operating location for our Service Commission. I know I can talk winds at 40 miles an hour, but we appreciate the chance to talk about what we do and any questions you have. We'd like to answer. I think Commissioner's got one final thought.
Before we take those questions, might I read you a letter that we recently received from Robert Condon in Grove City. I want to offer my sincere appreciation and gratitude to Kyle Brozak, one of our VBS's Director of Family, Sharon and Vanessa, who worked the front, for your most needed humanitarian work to those of us that have fallen on hard times in our lives. My visit to the commission was an enlightening experience. Sharon at the window was absolutely fantastic, compassionate, and kind. Kyle was professional. He did his job well and processed my application. Director Bramley stopped in to introduce himself, and I knew immediately he was a kind man and offered advice immediately. When I came back to pick up my paperwork, I met Vanessa at the window. She was helpful, nice, and kind-hearted. These are the kinds of professionals that turn an individual's tough and humbling situation into something wonderful. And he goes on to thank us. Your questions?
You know, I don't have a question. I would like to make a comment about the change in the tenor of the service provision over at Vet Service Commission over the last couple of years. And it's been a joy to work with you, Buck, and to your team, to the commissioners at Vet Service Commission. It's been a joy to see the extension of you, Buck, into the community in which you've been working over the last couple of years to make those partnerships happen. We're thrilled to see the change in tenor and tone of the staff overall. Working with our veterans has been so different and so much better. And I know in my office, I used to get calls from people who were not getting served well, and it's changed for the better. And I think that you coming in when you did to really change the culture over at the commission, and you know, it's different. It's very different. Moving into the building made some of the difference, but I think just the change in the way in which you work makes a huge difference, and the willingness you've had to extend yourself into the community makes an incredible difference. And being willing to be a partner with others in the community to allow for more service to happen on the part of what you're able to bring to bear for our veterans and others really a testament to the work of all of you. So I want to thank you for what you've done.
Appreciate it very much. We have a very exciting commissioners who have ideals and goals that I think are aligned with what you all want us to do, and that is let's get veterans some kind of sustained quality of life, and let's treat them with respect and make them feel good about their service.
And that sustainable living arrangements and sustainable solutions make so much sense, rather than processing just, what they need at the moment makes so much more sense. So thank you to the commissioners on Vet Service Commission.
Well, as a county commissioner over the last 11 years now, it's been, this agency's been, I mean, it's, you want to support and you want to do everything you can for your veterans. You always, with this agency, we've always wanted to do everything we possibly can to support all the men and women that have done so much for our community. And we sit up here and do, all that we can to try to do that. And then we've had, with this, we've had our issues, obviously it's been well documented, and you guys all know we've had our issues. But then, and then while that was going on, then we had our issues with the Vets Memorial. And then over the last few years, to have the fantastic reaction and relationship that we've had, the changes and the things that you folks have done, not only Buck, your leadership at the commission, but you gentlemen, the things that you guys have done as members of the commission and the staff at Veteran Service Commission. I mean, every time we go over there, just the attitude, the work you guys are doing, it's been a joy. I mean, it's just fantastic. And then when we see the veterans and we talk to the veterans and the gratitude that they have for everything that you guys are doing for them, and then, I mean, with finally the completion of the building, all the things that have been going on at 280 at Memorial Hall, but then the completion of Veterans, the new Veterans Memorial Museum, and all the great stuff that happened there as well. It's been a lot of great things happening lately, and so, but I don't have any questions about the budget, about the numbers. I know you guys have been doing some great work with our staff there, but I mean, every time we talk, every time you guys come over, it's great to see the dedication that you guys have, and I mean, Buck, you can tell every time I talk to you, you can tell the commitment that you have and the pride that you have in the work that you do, and first couple times I met you, I can tell the dedication you had. I mean, it grabbed me that day at the county fair the first summer and dragged me into the van and said, "Here, come here. I need you to do this." And I mean, it's obvious how dedicated you are to what you do, and so thank you for what you're doing now for our veterans, but thank you for your service, and thank you for your service to your country. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right.